Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we are diving deep into, well, one of those topics that just keeps coming up in the developer world. It seems simple, but it's actually pretty hotly debated.
Oh, yeah. What are we tackling?
The big one? Sound. Music, specifically. Is it, the ultimate productivity hack when you're coding?
Ah, right. Or is it actually just a massive distraction, something that totally kills your focus?
Exactly. It feels like it should just be personal preference, right? Like some people like it, some don't.
But when you actually dig into what people are saying, like in this collection of discussions and stories from the DEV community we looked at,
Yeah.
it's way more nuanced. It seems programmers aren't just, putting up with background noise. They're actively engineering their sound environment.
Engineering it. How so?
Well, they treat music almost like a tool, a really sophisticated one, actually, to manage focus, sure, but also things like stress during debugging or even matching it to cognitive load.
Okay, so that's why this deep dive isn't just about, like, sharing favorite Spotify playlists. Our mission today, really, for you listening, is to try and pull out the actual methodology here. We want to figure out, when does music genuinely help?
And crucially, when is silence the better option? When does it become almost a professional necessity?
Right. And what does that specific sonic toolkit for a serious developer even look like? What are the actual tools they reach for?
Well, the first thing that jumps out from the sources is pretty immediate, and it's key. There's just no fixed rule.
No surprise there, I guess?
Not really. You ask 10 developers, you'll probably get 10 different answers. And, those answers might even change for the same developer depending on the day or the project they're working on.
So the consensus is, it depends.
Pretty much. The consensus we found is that its usefulness really hinges on the situation, your mood, and this seems critical, the cognitive demand. Like, how hard do you need to think for the specific task you're doing right then?
Okay, that personal calibration, that sounds like the core thing we need to explore.
Definitely. That's the heart of it.
And to really get a feel for that dynamic, that sort of emotional side of coding, we kind of have to start with this one specific story. It's a really vivid anecdote from the main source author, Mahdi Jazini.
Ah, yes. I remember that one. It's so relatable, isn't it?
Totally. I think anyone who works with complex problems, not just developers, will recognize this moment.
He paints this picture, right? You're just stuck deep in some horrible debugging mess.
Staring at the same code block for like an hour.
Yeah. And the deadline is looming. You can feel the pressure building up. It's almost physical. And this tiny, stupid problem, it just won't cooperate.
You're hitting peak frustration.
Yeah.
That point developers sometimes call the rage quit moment.
Exactly that moment. You're right on the edge.
And what's the fix? The sort of professional strategic move here. It's not just gritting your teeth and pushing harder.
No, it's actually the opposite. It's this very deliberate, specific ritual he has. It's designed to pull him completely out of that negative mental spiral.
Okay, what does he do?
He describes getting up, physically moving away from the computer, pouring himself a hot cup of tea.
Nice. Calming.
Right. And then, this is the interesting part, he plays MetallicA. Specifically, Nothing Else Matters.
MetallicA. For calming down. Seems kind of counterintuitive.
Well, yeah, but here's the crucial detail he mentioned. It's not blasting on headphones. It's played softly, kind of filling the room.
Ah, okay. So the function of the song in that precise moment, it isn't about fueling the coding work itself.
Not at all. It's purely about achieving what he calls mental calm.
It's like a self-message delivered through the music.
Exactly. Allowing his brain, which is all tangled up in stress and deadlines, to hear this sort of counter signal. Nothing else matters right now. Just relax. Reset.
So the routine is like hitting a deliberate pause button, a way to recharge that mental battery he talks about.
Letting the stress and the worry kind of dissipate before going back to the code.
And crucially, going back not with more frustration, but with a fresh perspective.
Think composed.
Yeah, I thought that was incredibly insightful because it really elevates music beyond just, something to fill the silence.
It's being used first as an emotional regulator, a mood management tool.
Right, before it even touches the actual workflow. And apparently, others agreed, that specific breakdown matching music to the task. One commenter called it the most practical and most relatable thing ever.
Because it treats sound as part of managing your energy and focus, not just background noise.
Precisely. It's strategic.
Okay, so what's fascinating then is how quickly the discussion in the sources shifts from that emotional coping strategy to a really structured, almost analytical use of sound. The main takeaway seems to be you got to calibrate your music, not just to your mood, but to the type of work you're doing.
Yeah, that's where it gets really interesting.
So let's try and build that out for the listener, like a practical guide maybe.
Yeah,
Right?
that is.
Soundscape matrix.
Okay, yeah, let's build that matrix. We can base it on what the sources suggest about cognitive load. There seem to be about 4 main scenarios where developers deliberately change up their sound environment.
All right, scenario 1.
Yeah.
Simple, repetitive tasks. What falls into this category?
This is kind of the grind, you know? Routine stuff, maybe updating database entries, some mindless maintenance tasks, or even those big code refactors, the ones that take a lot of effort, but it's more mechanical, not deep. New problem solving.
Gotcha. So low cognitive load. What's the sound prescription here according to the sources?
Overwhelmingly, for this kind of low complexity work, the consensus seems to favor calm instrumental music. And critically, music that's predictable.
Predictable. Like how?
Like lo-fi beats. They came up constantly. They seem to be the undisputed champion here.
Why lo-fi, do you think?
Well, it fills the silence, right? Stops your mind wandering off completely into boredom. But crucially, there are usually no vocals, no sudden or dramatic changes in melody or rhythm that could suddenly grab your attention.
Ah, so it's like sonic wallpaper, designed to just keep you at a low, steady level of mental activation without demanding attention.
Exactly. It just hums along in the background.
Okay, that makes total sense. Now let's move to category 2. Studying and learning. What about when you're trying to absorb complex new information, reading dense technical docs, watching a long tutorial? The cognitive effort shifts, right?
It definitely shifts. You're actively trying to process and retain new stuff, so the music choice needs to change too.
How so?
Here, the preference seems to lean towards sounds that are even less intrusive. Things with, like, a higher structural purity, maybe?
Purity, you mean like classical?
Yeah, classical music came up, or really gentle instrumental stuff. Think about those peaceful piano playlists you see everywhere.
Okay, so the idea is the complexity is in the material you're learning.
Right. So the sound needs to be elegantly simple. It shouldn't compete for your working memory. Makes sense. Avoid cognitive overload. Okay, now let's switch gears completely. Category 3, deadline pressure and stress. This is crunch time. You need a mental boost, right? You probably don't want calm piano then.
Definitely not. This is where developers apparently turn up the energy. They need fuel.
What kind of fuel?
The sources mentioned energetic genres, rock, metal. Playlists like rock classics or metal essentials were cited.
Wow. Okay, so this isn't just background anymore.
No, it seems to serve more as a morale boost, an energy infusion.
Right.
There were even specific examples, high-octane tracks like Queen's Don't Stop Me Now and I Want It All. It's like auditory caffeine, basically, designed to maybe elevate your heart rate a bit, focus your attention outwards, push you through the sludge.
Okay, I have to pause on that one
Yeah.
because that sounds completely counterintuitive to me. How are you supposed to follow complex code logic with Freddie Mercury hitting those high notes? Wouldn't that just add more noise to an already stressful situation?
Yeah, that's the critical distinction, isn't it? And the developers and the sources seemed clear on this. This kind of high-energy music isn't usually for the debugging part, not for figuring out the really tricky core problem.
Ah, so when is it used?
It seems to be more for the implementation phase, or maybe for just getting over that hump, that inertia and stress. When the solution is already kind of clear in your head, you just need to power through the typing.
Got it. So it's mood management again, but for endurance this time, not for the deep critical thinking.
Precisely. That distinction seems absolutely key.
Okay. And that brings us finally to category 4, deep focus or flow. This is the zone, right? The coveted state where the code is just clicking, you're immersed, and productivity is maxed out. How do you use sound to maintain that trance?
Yeah, maintaining flow is crucial. Here, the music needs to be atmospheric, seems to be a good word, instrumental, definitely, and often quite epic or cinematic to sort of sustain that momentum.
So complex enough to keep the background interesting, but repetitive enough not to surprise you or pull you out of the zone.
Exactly. It shouldn't have jarring changes. And we saw some incredible, really specific recommendations here, which tells you how carefully developers curate this state.
Like what? Give us some examples.
Well, highly influential film scores were popular. Daft Punk's Trun Legacy soundtrack came up, which is just mesmerizing, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, totally.
And also those big, powerful, soaring pieces by Hans Zimmer. They specifically cited Time from Inception and scores from Interstellar. tracks that build tension and momentum, but without lyrics or sudden shifts to break the spell.
Right, they create a whole atmosphere.
Totally. And for people who lean more towards electronic or progressive genres, the list got even more specific. Progressive house, electro house.
Okay.
And specific artists, too. Like Archive, they mentioned a 16-minute version of a track called Again, and also specific tracks from a band called Leprous.
Wow, really specific.
Yeah. But the common thread through all of these, whether it's Zimmer or electro house, seems to be instrumental repetition, high production value, something that creates this sort of sonic envelope you can just sink into and concentrate within.
Okay, so we've covered a lot about when sound helps. But, for every developer who swears by Daft Punk to get into flow, there's another one who probably swears by absolute silence. We need to talk about that too, right? The importance, maybe even the necessity of silence for certain kinds of work.
Absolutely. We have to address the counter-argument. For all the talk about optimizing background noise, the sources definitely draw a hard line around certain activities. Activities that seem to demand zero auditory input.
What are those?
Primarily, it seems to be hard, complex debugging, or as the sources put it, basically any sensitive task where the programmer has to think really hard.
Thinking really hard, meaning like holding lots of complex pieces in your head at once.
Exactly. Juggling multiple variables, tracing intricate logic paths, that kind of thing.
So why the absolute stop on music here? Even quiet instrumental stuff, doesn't that seem a bit extreme?
Well, this seems to connect directly to cognitive load theory and working memory. A few commenters touched on this, bringing in some neuroscience principles.
Okay, explain that a bit.
Right.
Working memory is like your mental RAM, right?
Essentially, yeah, it's that temporary mental workspace you use for active thinking and processing. And it's limited. You can only hold and manipulate so many pieces of information at once.
Right. Like juggling balls.
Exactly. So when you're doing a really high-load task, like untangling some super tricky bug, your working memory is probably running close to full capacity.
Makes sense.
Now, even the slight, maybe subconscious mental effort needed to filter out background music, even calming instrumental music, it still uses up a tiny fraction of that precious working memory.
Ah, I see. So even if it's not consciously distracting, it's still imposing a small tax on your cognitive resources.
That seems to be the idea. And during those critical thinking moments when you need every ounce of focus, that small tax can actually be enough to disrupt the whole process. Music, in that specific scenario, flips from being a potential booster to being an active interference.
Wow. Okay, so the choice between silence and sound becomes highly strategic then. It's not just about what you like, it's about deliberately preserving your cognitive bandwidth for the task at hand.
Precisely. It's about resource management for your brain.
And that actually leads perfectly into this really practical approach
Yeah.
that one commenter shared. Augustine Ampofo, you mentioned him earlier.
Yeah, his two-phase workflow idea, it's brilliant, I thought.
Explain it. How does it work?
Okay, so phase one, you use silence. Complete silence. This is for the hard part, identifying the core problem, figuring out the actual solution, doing all that critical thinking.
Right. Maximize cognitive resources for the breakthrough.
Exactly. Then, phase two. Once you've mentally cracked it, once the core solution is clear in your head and you're moving into the more maybe rote implementation phase, the actual coding it out,
Then what?
then you bring the music back in to make that implementation process, as he put it, 10x more enjoyable and probably faster too because you're in a better mood.
That's a fantastic framework. So you're treating silence as a strategic tool for the deep thinking and music as a tool for mood and efficiency during the execution. That's really practical advice for listeners.
Totally. It maps directly onto that cognitive load idea. And we should also quickly touch on just managing the environment sound. Headphones versus speakers came up quite a bit.
Right. The delivery method matters too. What do they say?
Well, headphones seem essential when the environment itself is noisy. Think open-plan offices, busy coffee shops. You need them to block out external distractions and just create your own focused bubble.
Makes sense. Noise canceling is key there.
But speakers, played at a really low volume, were often preferred when working at home, more for just relaxation, providing a gentle sort of ambient background that doesn't feel as intense or demanding as headphones can.
Okay, so context matters there too. Office versus home.
Definitely.
All right, so we've covered the soundscapes, the methodology, the silence. But what about the actual tangible stuff? What are the practical resources, the tools, even the fuel sources mentioned in this developer's complete productivity kit? We need those takeaways people can actually try.
Good point. Beyond just curating playlists on Spotify or whatever, developers mentioned using some pretty specialized engineered apps. Things designed specifically to manipulate focus using sound.
Like what kind of apps?
Brain.fm was mentioned. It apparently provides music tailored using neuroscience principles specifically to increase focus.
Interesting.
And Noisli also came up. That one lets you mix your own ambient sounds like rain, wind, coffee shop chatter, white noise to create a custom background mask.
Okay, kind of a DIY soundscape tool.
Yeah. And another one cited was Focus at Will, which apparently blends specialized music with psychology concepts to boost productivity.
So some high-tech options there. What about simpler stuff
Yeah.
for the DIY crowd?
Yeah, for general playlist styles, the ones that kept recurring were, again, lo-fi hip-hop radio, often tagged with things like beats to relax study to.
The champion returns.
Indeed. Also, epic music mixes for those big projects needing sustained energy, like we discussed, and just simple nature sounds or rain sounds tracks to get that ambient effect without actual music.
Okay, good list.
Yeah.
But you mentioned fuel earlier. The toolkit isn't just sound, is it? The sources talked about drinks, too.
Oh, yeah. The companion drink seems almost as vital as the soundscape for many. The ultimate coding duo, as one person put it.
Huh. Okay, so it's part of the ritual. Like Mahdi Jazini's tea that started us off. What kind of drinks are we talking about? What stood out?
Hot tea was definitely a dominant choice. People specifically mentioned it as a stress reducer, a sort of steady, focused companion.
Any particular kinds?
Green tea was popular. And also freshly brewed tea, sometimes with cinnamon added. One person called it their secret weapon for just staying steady and calm.
Nice. Zen coding fuel. But what about when you need that energy kick for the deadlines?
Well, for those high-intensity moments, the caffeine delivery system seems to shift.
To coffee.
Espresso. Sometimes, maybe. But what really stood out in the comments were caffeinated chocolate drinks.
Really? Like hot chocolate with caffeine?
More like chai lattes, strong matcha lattes, and dark chocolate mochas. These were cited as the formula for kicking into unstoppable logic mode.
Unstoppable logic mode. I love that.
Right, so it seems these provide that needed energy spike, but maybe with a more comforting, ritualistic element compared to just slamming an espresso. It could help counteract the stress a bit.
That really underlines the whole picture, doesn't it? It's a totally holistic approach these developers are taking. They're managing cognitive effort, their emotional state, and their physical energy, all through these really meticulously chosen inputs, sound and drink included.
Yeah, it's quite sophisticated when you break it down.
So what does this all mean when you pull all these threads together?
Well, I think the main synthesis, the big takeaway, is that music is absolutely not a one-size-fits-all solution. Not even close.
Right, it's personal.
It's deeply personal, yeah,
Yeah.
and highly individualized. It's a tool for managing your internal energy and dealing with external distractions. You really have to experiment, figure out what works for you, and crucially, align your soundscape or your silence with the specific cognitive demands of the task you're doing right now.
Whether you choose, a wall of cinematic sound or just total quiet.
Yeah. The ultimate goal, it seems, is always the same: to be able to execute your code with, as the sources put it, calm and high focus. Whatever helps you achieve that state is the right choice for that moment.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. As a final thought, maybe a bit of a curveball, we have to bring in this one significant counter perspective we found. It kind of challenges the whole premise of using music to manage your mood while you're actually working.
You mean Tahir Shareef's comment? Yeah, that was really thought-provoking.
What did he say again? He cut down his music listening drastically.
Dramatically. By like 95%, he said. And his finding was that his overall focus, his mental clarity, and ultimately his productivity actually increased.
Increased by removing the music. How did he explain that?
He argued that, looking back, he felt he was often just mindlessly listening, maybe sort of seeking a constant low-level dopamine overload, as he put it, from the music itself while he was coding.
Okay, like using music as a crutch, almost.
Perhaps. And when he removed that stimulus, he found his critical thinking skills actually improved. Specifically, he mentioned his ability to hold complex ideas in his head got better.
Wow. So, less noise, more clarity.
That was his experience. For him, the real dopamine hit, the real happiness or reward, came only after the work was done, after he'd wrestled with the problem and solved it, not during the process itself.
Okay, so that leaves you, the listener, with a really interesting, maybe even philosophical question to chew on, doesn't it? Is music best used the way many described it, as an emotional regulator, a tool to help you manage mood and energy during the hard work to help you endure it.
Or is there potentially more benefit in training your brain, like Tahir suggests, to seek the reward only from completing the difficult task itself? Could that lead to a higher level of mental clarity, better critical thinking, maybe more unadulterated